Hi, it's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing PR, the editor of Punchline magazine, and welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers, where each week I invite on a panel of business experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's going on in their own individual business sectors, and also what's going on in their own individual businesses. And finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. So let me introduce you to the panel. We've got Bruce Gregory, the MD of Hub 8 and a director of Cynam, first time on the show. We've got Neill, CEO and founder of ProCook. We've got Russell Warner, MD and owner of Westend Office Suites. He's also Federation of Small Business of Gloucestershire area lead. And finally, and last but not least, we've got Sam Holliday, Development Manager for the Federation of Small Businesses and the West of England, and also the ex-editor of the Bath Chronicle. If you like the show, guys, please like, share, and subscribe. And a happy new year to you all. Let's just quickly run through the headlines of the newspapers. We've got the Western Daily Press. We cannot seek to change history. That's all about the Colson statue. The Citizen newspaper, Ocean Bridge is completed after workers. That was that fantastic bridge over the rail by Stroud, not far from you actually, Russell. I went down to see it at Christmas. The Times newspapers, there's a number of headlines here, but the one that really stands out for me is President Biden damning Donald Trump yesterday. So that's the Times. In the Daily Telegraph, 1 million to be pulled into higher rate of tax. The Daily Mail, PM, vandals can't change history. The Guardian, Tory peers secretly involved in firm given PPE contracts. I think this is a story that's going to run and run over this next year. The Daily Mirror, desperate Andrew, 17 million ski chalet sale. So allegedly he's selling his ski chalet to maybe make a payment to a certain person. And Piers troll arrested over death threats. This is Piers Morgan. And for some reason, for the life of me, I haven't got the Daily Star. And I love the Daily Star. Shocking. They always have the best heading. Anyway, let's start off with you today, Sam. I always start off with you. Happy New Year to you, buddy. What have you got for us for the papers?
Well, it's interesting the fact that you showed so many different stories there from different papers. That there isn't one thing that's uniting everyone. But I found a few things of interest. And I remember we did this just before Christmas, and I think we were all slightly panicky that the moment Christmas is out of the way, we might be heading for further restrictions, maybe even, dare I say, mini lockdowns. And I don't sense that. I feel like we might have got over the worst of that fear, which is good news. But I was struck by this story from the Eye newspaper, I hope you can see that, about the effect of long COVID and the fact that even when this thing goes away, and it will go away, we'll beat this, you know, there'll be people that are still suffering from it. And 12 months on, 37% of people are still, 37% of people who have problems are still having a lack of smell. 28% say they have very difficult concentrating, and 51% said that fatigue is really strong. And I think it shows that we're still in the infancy of knowing what this disease is going to do, and that will affect the workplace. We're all here representing business in one way or another. And if people are still struggling with this, then we'll need to do something to cope with it. But so that was one interesting thing about COVID. The other story that struck me, which is also kind of related, is that the car industry had a terrible year last year. It really did. They called it bleak, the amount of sales. And that's probably because people were using their cars less and so forth. And so that's an industry that's very important to this country. And if that's having a problem, then we've got a problem. But the line that got me was that 28% of all registrations were electric cars. Now, we've talked on this group before, and I know many of us have talked about the growth in the use of electric cars, but I've got another angle to that, in that I was talking yesterday to the chap that's in charge of bringing the new clean air zone to Bristol, which is taking place this summer. It's going to be a very big thing. If you drive in, you've got to have a car of a certain level. It's got to be Euro 6 and so forth. And there's a massive shortage of cars like that, and particularly vans. So a lot of the businesses in Bristol are going to be given financial support to convert to electric, but they can't get the cars. And they're being quoted something like 12 months. Now, the Clean Air Zone comes into effect in 6 months' time. So there's going to be a bit of an issue there. But it isn't just a question of people deciding they want an electric car now. You can't get them. And for people who maybe the Clean Air Zone sort of won't affect them, then that's a problem. But for those people that have got to convert, they're going to have a real issue. And it's happened in Manchester. Greater Manchester is about to introduce clean air zone. We've already got one locally in Bath. There's London, and this is going to get bigger and bigger. But the surge towards people wanting to get electric cars, not only is the infrastructure a problem, but availability. And I found that quite interesting. So not a good year for car sales, but 28% are in one way or another got electric input. And I think that is a really interesting statistic.
I think if you're selling second-hand cars, mate, you're really coining it in.
Yeah,
the value
absolutely.
of second-hand cars have gone through the roof. Talking to Nick Brody from and Andy from Avenue Cars, and they were saying to me about the price of second-hand diesel cars have gone up as well. So you are right. And amazing story from the Bath Chronicle recently about the levels of pollution that's gone down since they introduced that zone. So it appears it does work, or is it COVID, lack of traffic? But why can't they kick it down the road for 6 months? Kick the can down the road? Why, when we still got these problems? Anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on from that.
Well, actually, Mark, can I just come in on that? Because
of course.
There was actually an article in the Eye yesterday about Sony's entry or announcement potentially into the electric vehicle sector. And I think it's really fascinating. Dyson toyed with it, I think, fairly recently. That was well known, and then pulled out after investing, billions into developing their driving side of the business. And now Sony seem to have announced that they're going to be entering into the market. So I think it's really interesting how it's being disruptive and how technology is really playing a very important part in it. So fascinating sector.
Well, let's go over to you then, Bruce. What else have you picked out from the papers?
Well, actually, sort of go on from that, another article in the Eye. This is about how AI or robotics are really influencing the farming sector. The article is specifically about John Deere and about how now you have driverless tractors, which is going to revolutionize the farming sector. The reason I wanted to pull this one out is because actually I visited Hartpury University towards the end of last year, and I think we all know how Gloucestershire is a very rural county and has got some wonderful farms in the region. So it's a very relevant topic for us. And visiting Hartpury, it really kind of brought to the forefront how there's this juxtaposition between technology and farming now. And Hartpury, they call it agri-tech as a high growth sector. And it's a fascinating juxtaposition where you have technology really leading the way and disrupting and transforming what is considered a very, I guess, old school sector. So it's a very interesting juxtaposition. And the point that I found really interesting, and the reason that we visited Hartpury, was to bring some of the cyber and technology capability that we have in this region and bring that together with this agri-tech sector. And from that one meeting, there was so much crossover. It was fascinating. And I'm excited that probably this year we'll be able to really demonstrate how the collaboration between the cyber and technology sector and agri-tech in the region is going to provide some really interesting innovation. So that's one that I wanted to highlight. It's very relevant to the region.
And that John Deere, what's fascinating about that is basically, I don't know if you've seen it, guys, the article is that a farmer can get the John Deere tractor, plough the field, and you don't actually need a driver physically in the cab. You can actually sit on the side of, in a cafe somewhere, drive it. It's got cameras. I think it's 8 or 9 cameras around the tractor, and you can steer it and organize it all there. Same way you can have drones that can spot land that's not growing properly. It is absolutely amazing what's going on there as well. Bruce, have you picked up one more for us quickly, please?
Yeah, no, I do have another one. It's in today's Eye again. It's on espionage. And it's about how MI6 chief thanks China for publicity after Bond spoof. Now, and the reason I wanted to highlight this one is I think we all know we have GCHQ based in the region, and they are actually the region's biggest employer. And because of GCHQ's presence here, we've got a thriving cyber and technology sector. And the reason I wanted to highlight this point is because it really highlights how this is a global problem that we're working on at the moment in terms of cybersecurity. it's really how we are working against China, Russia, and Iran in this instance. And it's not about Cheltenham's strength locally, it's about how we work together nationally, how we provide a very, very strong UK cybersecurity sector to really combat some of the global challenges that we will face as the world becomes more and more digital dependent.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Thanks ever so much for that, Bruce. If you don't mind me, the NHS is the biggest employer in the county. Not that I want to pick holes.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, matey. You can't ever damn the NHS. Right. Anyway, Daniel, I've got to go to you, mate. Thanks ever so much for joining us today. What have you picked out from the papers?
I picked out something from the Times, just business confidence with Omicron, and it's just it's interesting. Sat here with sort of about 10% of my workforce at home isolating, because of the virus, which I think is probably in line with the UK population, working population, and the prospect we saw the prospect of Next and Greg's with price inflation. I think it's going to be a tricky start to the year for businesses. So yeah, it's that was one thing that caught my eye. And then the other one was obviously our poor Mr. Djokovic. We obviously don't have to feel too sorry for Mr. Djokovic, just linking in from the COVID situation. But clearly he seems to be a pawn in the wrong place, because half of Australia give him a visa, and then when he gets there, they decide to take it away. And it's rather unfortunate. But he did go above the parapet and say, he didn't believe in the vaccination. So I suppose, yeah.
Well, there's not a lot you can say to that, really. I personally don't feel sorry for him at all, and let him stick in some hotel somewhere. But there you go. Yeah. Anyway, thanks ever so much for that, Dan. Russell, thank you for joining the show today. Great to see you, mate. What have you picked out for us?
Hi, Mark. I've got a couple of local stories, actually. So I'm in the Stroud News and Journal. And one carry on with the electric car theme about you probably can't see that. No, you can't.
No, you just appeared, which is quite funny.
About the fact that the parish council's got new charge points, and you keep hearing about one of the restrictions on cars is about all the electric charge points, and so it's good that even the parish council's trying to get involved. I'm not so sure about the electric charge points being an issue, because we've got electric charge point on site, and for 18 months it wasn't used because we got electric cars on site. People charge at home, and to some ways, if you can charge at home, why would you ever go back to a petrol car? You've got to go and drive somewhere to actually fuel it up when you can just plug it in overnight. So that's a local story, and a bit of a move in the right direction by parish council. And the other one, which is also in the Stroud News and Journal, but you also picked up as the main story on the Citizen is what's happening down on the canal, where they've been working throughout Christmas. Had a walk around there. You can't get too close, but they've done a great job there. And the canal and its reinstatement is going to be a great thing. Yeah, that's the one. Look at that picture there. They've that's a big crane if you see it in real life. And thank you. And the reinstatement of canals going to do wonders for the Stroud. It's had a lot of grant money from the lottery, but also there's a massive contribution from volunteers. And already I know, I've seen you jogging along there. It's good for the health of the village and the community around it. I think that's a great thing locally. I think
it's absolutely fantastic, Russell. When they finish it, I don't know if you guys realise, but you'll be able to walk from Gloucester Docks, from the centre of Gloucester. You'll be able to walk all the way to Stroud, along the canal, and it's a fantastic route. And the amount of volunteers, I'm actually a member of the Canal Trust.
Likewise.
I go there on a regular basis. I absolutely love it. It's great for my mental health as well as my family. And the amount of people you see there now, jogging, running, rowing, surfing. We're not surfing, but that board thingy bobby I can't do. I've got no natural balance.
Boost tourism in the future as well, I think. Yeah, it's great.
It's going to be absolutely huge. One more, Russell, quickly.
Well, just another. This is a vaccine story from the Stroud News and Journal. Apparently, 85% of adults.
Hold on a second. Have you just bought the Stroud News and Journal? Is that the only paper?
Well, that and the aforementioned citizen. Yeah.
Sorry,
I did.
anyone?
So the 85% of people over 18 have been vaccinated in Gloucestershire, which I thought was pretty good actually. It shows you've got good levels here, and hopefully that help us through the turbulent times and help us on the road to recovery quicker.
I know, absolutely amazing the vaccine rollout here in the county. I think at one point we were actually leading the whole country. Thanks ever so much for that, Russell. Right, let's go over to you, Sam. Federation of Small Business, wearing that hat. And what are your members telling you at the moment? What's the key things at the moment?
Well, I think Daniel hit the nail on the head, really. I think staff shortages, which were a problem before, let's be honest, a lot of people are struggling to fill vacancies. You know, we've got this period straight after Christmas now where you really want to get started again. You really want to get Christmas out of the way and motor ahead. And a lot of people have got staff missing. So I think it is an uncertain time. I think Daniel alluded to the confidence. I think we've got a new confidence report coming down again soon, which shows that confidence did dip at the end of last year again. And I think we need some sort of good news, really. I mean, it's only a small one, but they all help. A piece in the Times they're saying that the tax return deadline is being put back a month, and that's not just out the goodness of the government's heart. It's because so many accountants aren't working and so forth, and so many people have got it. So I think it's an uncertain time, Mark. I don't sense the surge of optimism you normally get at the start of the year, but equally, and I do think it's important we have balance in this, I think we were looking at a different scenario in the last couple of weeks of December. Everybody was saying to me there'll be new restrictions after Boxing Day and blah blah. It hasn't happened. We can't be complacent. Something may still happen again, but I've got a feeling if Omicron doesn't turn out to be as devastating to people's health, it may mean we have to miss work, but then that is a positive. So, but we do need some good news, because again, that energy thing is getting big. I know a lot of people, businesses and individuals, are getting very nervous about how high those gas prices are going to be. And I wonder how many people over Christmas and New Year didn't have the heating on quite as much as they would normally do so. We were lucky, it was a mild Christmas, but everyone's got it on at the moment. So I think I'd sum it up, Mark, by a sense of nervousness and waiting to see what might happen next, and nobody quite sure where we're going.
I think the
It does
government
feel like the squeeze on disposable income, doesn't it? There is going to be a squeeze on disposable income, yeah.
And confidence.
Yeah.
I think the big thing, I think the government just can't afford to do anything. They can't afford the furlough scheme. They can't afford to lock stuff down, and they're putting everything back over to us. I mean, if you're in the hospitality trade and you work in a pub or a restaurant and you've lost, you know, the main time. Imagine for you, Dan, if someone said to you, you can't trade at Christmas, one of your busiest times, and they come along and say, actually, you can only get a quarter of your sales. That would carry you forward. And I just fear that we're going to see in February and March a whole load of these hospitality businesses go pop for no fault of their own. You know, it's different.
I think we're at the end of any sort of grants or any, you know.
Yeah.
Well, there are some grants available for the hospitality, but it's £6,000, and £6,000 isn't going to go too far, shall we say? It's helpful. It might pay off a few suppliers, might keep the wolf from the door, but you know, the great scheme of things, it doesn't stretch very, very far. Okay, let's go over to you, Bruce, if that's okay. Thanks ever so much for that, Sam. Bruce, welcome to Punchline Talks. Can you tell us about Hub 8, please? What is Hub 8 and what do you guys do there?
Mark, thanks for inviting me on. Hub 8 is a work and innovation space. We launched our first facility in Cheltenham in 2019, and we were actually really just the starting to motor in spring 2020, and then pandemic hit. But actually, we've recovered really well, and we launched our second facility also in Cheltenham in partnership with Gloucestershire College at their campus in the town right next door to GCHQ in September. And that we launched that at nearly full occupancy, just to sort of give a sense of how buoyant the cyber and technology sector is locally. And we're also working in partnership with Cheltenham Borough Council. We secured a £3.1 million government grant in 2020 to really supercharge the scheme that probably people know as the Minster Exchange. And that's a new innovation centre that we're building right in Cheltenham Town Centre. And that's about how we bring this thriving cyber and technology sector bring it together with the cultural and creative sectors that we have in the town and the region. So there's a lot going on, an exciting time. We're also working with GCHQ or NCSC to deliver their cyber innovation program known as NCSC for Startups. And that's all about attracting some of the best startups in the country to Cheltenham to really develop technology that supports NCSC's mission to keep the country safe to do business online. So lots going on in the sector locally, and we're very much a key component of that.
It's very, very exciting, I must admit. And thanks ever so much, by the way, for the tour that you gave me at the Cheltenham campus when we opened there. So it was a bit of a celebration and stuff, and we had a little walkthrough video together. Yeah, absolutely brilliant, brilliant. Thank you ever so much. Okay, Dan, let's go over to you, sir. Christmas period's just been. Can you tell us a little bit? Have you done well?
We're happy with that. I think is the now my official sort of IPO CEO line. We're happy until we publish our achievements over Christmas. So yeah, we're sort of in that. We're in a sort of a blackout in terms of announcements of that. But yeah, we're happy with that.
You've got 54 stores, isn't it? Sorry, stuff. You've got
55. Yeah, we opened a couple new stores. We opened a couple new stores in just before Christmas in London. And there it's been the footfall has been significantly hit. As we say, hopefully that will bounce now. As you say, there's a bit more doom and gloom, as Sam said, pre-Christmas than there is now. So hopefully we'll see that footfall, although a tube strike clearly doesn't help. It just seems to be sort of the 10 plagues at the moment if you've got a shop in London.
Okay, what was your best selling product, mate? Any idea?
Best selling product, tableware. As we sort of grow in the sort of like for like increase on last year. I mean, we are becoming a real authority in this area, so it's really exciting.
Okay, now most of your sales do come from online. Have you got any more plans to open any more stores this year? I mean, I couldn't keep up with you last year.
No, we would like to open more stores, but again, it goes back to the piggy bank is rattling empty. So at the moment, we all know of the injustice of retail rates, and if you're an independent, what the government offered in terms of a rates grant was quite generous. But if you're a chain, you know, the 90 or whatever 1,000 it was, you know, doesn't get past one or two shops. And in fact, you can only put it offset in one county. So for us, one borough. So for us, the rates, retail is still massively overpaying for business rates compared to any other industry. And I mean, that will slow down. You know, I think change will slow down in growth in terms of what they open because the rates is just, it's not sustainable for retail. You know, we all know that people are switching from retail to online. The sales in retail units isn't as high as what it used to be. We still want a thriving retail community, but the same level of turnover is not achievable in those retail spaces, and therefore that has to be reflected in the costs. And I think landlords have been pretty good. Landlords have been pretty good at leveling out. But the government has been hopeless. I mean, you know, we had a unit we were talking to a landlord in Castle Point where the rent was sort of 20% less than the rates. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy.
The government just doesn't seem to budge on business rates. They just can't seem to get a handle on it at all.
They can't.
Thanks ever so much, Dan. I'm afraid we're running out of time. Russell, let's go over to you, sir. Thanks ever so much for joining us today as well. Russell, Punchline Talks. I'm going to quickly go over to share the screen, and there we go. Russell, there's your pad.
Oh, thanks very much, Mark.
So tell us all about the Westend Office Suites.
So we cater for micro businesses here, typically 1 to 6 people. You see, we've got plenty of parking. It's a lovely rural setting. We try and do a bit for the environment as well. You can see the buildings that aren't listed have all got solar panels on. We've got car chargers. We've got the air source heat pumps. So we try and do our bit to do that. And we've been doing that for years. half my customers, it's their first ever office, and I look after my customers very, very well. I hold their hand, take them through everything on their face. If they've got a problem, they contact me, and I get it sorted out. And the other half of my customers are probably on the second or third office, and more substantial companies. I've got a couple of international companies here as well. Very diverse client base. We've got people selling wedding dresses, to beauticians, to accountants, architects, software companies. So we've got technology there and personal care, wedding businesses. Oh, I could mention others. It's got physiotherapists, acupuncturists. It's a real collection of micro businesses.
Yeah, and what I love about it, by the way, because I've been in here lots of times delivering our magazines, walking away here, dropping off each mag as I go along, and it's such a tidy place. It's really smart, clean, and of course, there's your pad here. That's where you live.
I try and keep it. Actually, Mark, we're the positive side of that is we always seem to have a waiting list with people trying to get here. I can't build things fast enough. You've got to get permissions, and it takes time to build things. I've had 5 inquiries since Christmas Day. It is a busy time now because people sort of think, I know, let's New Year's resolutions, let's move and take our first office on. And then also some of the businesses here have grown. Several of the businesses have grown. Started off with one small office and grown, and I'll keep that one till later. Talk about
no, we could go to it right now because we're kind of running out of time. We're all picking our next stories of what's caught your eye in this week's Punchline, and it's got to be these guys here. I'm assuming the chaps. Is it Dojo Marketing Dojo? Marketing
Dojo, yeah. They started many years ago with one small office, 3 graduates from Bristol University. Then they moved into a slightly bigger office, then another bigger office, then another office, and now they've taken on 4 offices. And they've just had an offer from a French company to buy them out. I think it was for a lot of money in personal terms, and good luck to them. They've done really well, and really nice chaps, and it's great to have seen them, and they've built a business here, a good technology business, and your number 1 story from yesterday, which was great.
Not being funny, mate. I can see how really proud of it you are, and rightly so. And I try to find out how much. I thought you were going to give the cat out of the bag, actually, tell us how much they sold it for. But it's over a 4-year period. They got £1.3 million turnover, 20 staff, growing by 30% every year. Really, really good. Really great Gloucestershire success story. Sam, what's the story that's you picked out for this week's Punch, please?
Well, picking up on what Daniel was talking about, I was both surprised and delighted to see the story that you put in yesterday, that the amount of retail shops last year actually increased on the previous year, which goes against all the narrative we hear about the problems with the high street. And I think the issue is, and Daniel's a brilliant example of growth, but I think a lot of people hear about the biggest companies, and when I'm talking people like Debenhams closing, and then assuming that that's it, the high street's dead. But I walked into Gloucester a couple of days ago, and there's little shops appearing all the time. And you think the high street isn't dead, it's just changing, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. So, what Daniel's done is incredible, but there's also lots of independent shops opening, and also the rise in online is successful as well. So for those like Daniel who do both, quids in. So that's a great story. Retail on the rise.
Okay, thanks very much. Dan, what have you picked out from this week's Punchline, please? Sir?
Yeah, well, I was Sweaty Betty. It was great to see the promenade seems to has really suffered with store closures, and it's great to see. It'd be great to see the revival of the promenade, because obviously it was such a, it was a really top destination within the country, and it has suffered massively. So it'd be great to see. It'd be great to see a bit of a revival of Cheltenham's promenade.
And I was really pleased with that story, because that was one of our breaking stories, actually. Boom, quite happy with that one. Thanks ever so much. Bruce, what's caught your eye this week's Punchline, please?
Actually, just like Daniel raised the Sweaty Betty story that you released yesterday, for me, it's such a good sign. Our high streets are such important things for the community. They need to be diverse places as well. So, you need to have offices, you need F&B, you need a whole range of offerings for everyone. And the importance that they play for our community shouldn't be forgotten. For me, it's always been about the town centre and bringing new and different things into it to make sure it's a relevant and vibrant place. To see Sweaty Betty opening, it's great news for the town, for Cheltenham and the region, because our high streets are such important things for the community.
No, thanks very much. The stories that I've had out for the week: £400,000 small firms threatened by late payments. £7 billion was the great return. I don't know if you saw that story on Tuesday. £7 billion is returned in that 1 week, would you believe? Norville's relocating their HQ to Waterwells. I thought that was a great story. But the one that really struck me, and the moment that's most important for Gloucester at this particular moment, is a redevelopment of the Gloucester Railway and that next phase, which is the junction that links onto Mertz Way. To me, that was the biggest story of the week. Thank you guys for joining us at Punchline Talks. Please like, share and subscribe, and hopefully you'll join us again next week. Thank you to my fantastic panel, and we'll see you all very soon, and a happy new year. Cheers, bye.